Essay 1 is called Definition Argument. And so in your course pack, there is a section. If you go past Winter Comes Again, you're going to find a page that looks like this. It says Steps to Writing an Argument, Definition Argument. So I want you to find this page. And also grab your highlighter. If you don't have a highlighter, I have some extras up here, or you can just underline with a pen or a pencil. Just some things I want to make sure that you get from how to write a definition argument. So this page, it's actually labeled as page 104 and 105. So you see there, the learning target is step 1, make a claim. It says make a definitional claim on a controversial issue that focuses on a key term. Highlight that and know that that is your assignment. So where it says step 1, make a claim, that is what you are to be doing. Now let's talk about the term controversial topic. When I say controversial, it doesn't mean that it has to be like a international or nationally polarizing idea. It could be an idea that any reasonable person might disagree with. So that could be something of great import, or it could be something of little consequence. Like, for example, you could make a rather comical definitional argument by saying that, I don't know, that Monday's the best day of the week. Like, people would disagree with you, but you can make an argument where you define best day of the week and use the features of Monday and why that's the best day of the week. So it doesn't have to be weighty. It doesn't have to be serious. Can be very weighty, can be very serious. But that's what it means by controversial, just that somebody might disagree with you. Okay? So look at the template, highlight the template. The thing about writing this essay is it's going to be written with an explicit thesis statement, and it's going to have this very rigid template to it. So highlight there where it says blank is or is not a blank because it has or does not have features A, B, C, and so on. So I've written that on the board for you. That's going to be your thesis statement. You're probably going to have that somewhere in your introduction, but it doesn't mean that your introduction has to be the first paragraph. So this essay may have a multi-paragraph introduction, and you may have this, as late as the third paragraph. That's where you're going to state this. So you might begin anecdotally with some sort of story, and then by the third or fourth paragraph, you drop the thesis statement. So don't feel like you just absolutely have to have that explicit thesis statement in the first paragraph. So Monday is the best day of the week because it has, and then you would list 3 or 4 or 5 features, and then you're going to develop those ideas in the body paragraph. So this is kind of a formulaic argumentative essay, right? It kind of follows a formula. And then you look about step 2, step 3. It talks about how to think about what's at stake, how to list the criteria. All of that's pretty basic stuff. But I want you to focus on step 1 and the template. So make sure that you have those highlighted. That will help you more than anything as you begin to think about topics for this. Now, let's think about topic development. One of the things that I have advised you about is write about something that you're currently interested in. So if there happens to be some sort of documentary that you've been watching, or some sort of TikTok trend, or some sort of video that you're into on YouTube, see if you can turn that into a topic to write a definitional argument about. I want to give you an example from last year's class that happens to be my niece. My niece was in class last year, and she and I had watched a documentary on HBO Max. So I'm going to show you the trailer for this documentary that we watched, and then I'm going to show you how she turned that documentary into an essay topic for essay 1.
Do you swear or affirm that testimony that you give is that you will to believe the truth? I do.
To your knowledge, do any of the members of the Roman Fellowship consider you to be a prophet?
When Gwen first started, I truly believed she really wanted to help people. She was so charismatic.
God revealed to me the key to permanent weight control is a matter of the heart. God's taken 86 pounds off of me.
It was just a massive media hit.
Thousands of churches all over the country have to lay down more jobs.
From that point on, she began realizing you need to be a new church.
It is extremely unusual to have a religious group led by one.
There are men who are elders of the entire church. But the truth of the matter is, I don't believe that Gwen is accountable to anything.
That's the reason I call her Gwen all the matters. She's going to decide whether you make it to heaven or not.
How members of Remnant behave is a bit like Handmaid's Tale and Stepford Wives.
They want you to be close of them. It's all about appearances.
Cross, the Bible, that's all sideshow. It's about money, prestige, power. That's her holy trail.
She's just playing God. It's wrecking families. It's wrecking kids.
The church didn't lead me in the damn right direction. The church was leading me to go hang myself in my own closet.
You taught your kids about drugs and alcohol, but you never think to coach your kids on cult.
Remnant Fellowship is now part of a murder investigation.
The child's death put the focus on how the Remnant Fellowship taught its members to discipline their children.
There's no telling what actually did go down, but I firmly believe that they did whatever they told them to do.
My child is going from bizarre down to in control. So praise God.
To me, the devil is a myth. I've met Gwen Champion and she's real.
Ever heard of Gwen Shamlin? Is that name familiar to you? So HBO did this documentary about Gwen Shamlin, and she was the leader of this church called the Remnant Fellowship, and it's in Brentwood, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. And so if you know anything about Brentwood area, Brentwood, Franklin, it's a very wealthy area of Tennessee. And she basically turned a weight loss program into a religion. And within her church, she became very demanding and made like people, if you came to a church event, you had to dress a certain way, you had to act a certain way, and you had to lose weight. And if you stopped losing weight, then obviously you were doing something that wasn't pleasing to God. So she connected weight loss to being pleasing to God. And so a lot of people said that was very cult-like. Now, the interesting thing about this is HBO Max made this, and we're getting ready to release it. And in 2021, she died in a plane crash. So she was married to a Hollywood actor. I can't remember. He played, what was it, The Incredible Hulk or something like that. Anyway, it's kind of an actor from the early 80s, but she had married him. And one of the interesting things about that is in her church, she told women that they could not get a divorce. But then when she met this man, she divorced her husband and married him. So there was a little bit of hypocrisy there. Anyway, it's kind of a fascinating thing. And so my niece had watched that documentary. She was kind of fascinated with it. And then this essay topic came along and she said, I have no idea what I want to write about. I said, well, how about turning what you know about the Remnant Fellowship into a definition argument? And this is the paper that she wrote. The Remnant Fellowship, the definition of a cult. So think about that template there. You're trying to look at something and define whether or not it's a cult. So here's her paper presented in APA format. And I don't know that she placed that exact definition or that thesis template in here, but here's how she begins. The Remnant Fellowship can be classified as a cult, because they isolate members from others outside the church, manipulate weight loss as spiritual assignment, and glorify their manipulative leaders. So those are the three features that she's using to define this church as a cult. Now, the other thing that she did in this paper, and this is something that you can do as well, is she used subheadings. So she divided her paper into headings, and we're going to look at an exemplar that does that. So isolating members from the outside world, that was her first feature. Weight loss as manipulation, that was her second feature to define this term. Glorification of leaders, that was her third feature. So you see how she logically organized by subheadings based on what she had said in the thesis statement. So this is a pretty rigidly organized, formulaic kind of argument to write. But I wanted to show you this, and then she has opposing arguments because it is controversial because people could say, no, Remnant Fellowship is a legitimate religious organization, and it meets all the criteria of being that. So she addresses the opposition in that as well. Notice also that she has references. So for this essay, you may need to consult outside sources in order to develop your claims and your ideas. And then those would be cited in APA format. So I show you that example to get your mind thinking about how can you use something that you're already interested in or something you know a little bit about to dig a little bit further and to research and to turn it into an argument. Make sense? So Remnant Fellowship is a cult because of these three features. The other thing, no, go ahead. Okay, I don't know if she cited it. Well, here she cited an interview. So if you go to the APA formatting, if you go to Purdue APA documentary, it will show you how to cite a film. Here's how you cite a TV interview. So Phil Williams was the interviewer. That was the date of the interviewer. That was the name of it. And it was broadcast on WTVF. So there's a way to cite anything. Films, movies. There's a way to cite a TikTok. So if you Google how to cite a TikTok in APA format, you'll find how to do that. You can pretty much cite anything. Other questions? Yes.
What is the capitalization for the title?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Are you talking about for just the title of your paper or for titles in the citation?
No, just the title of your regular paper.
The title of your regular paper, you're going to capitalize normally.
Okay, so that was normal?
That title, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, so that one you do normally.
Oh, okay.
It's only in the citation that you use downstop. Yeah, that's a good question. And then in the running head, it's all capitalized. Except for on page 1 when running head is not capitalized. All of that seems counterintuitive to me. Like that's not at all how my nature is to capitalize things. But again, that's what APA says. By the way, APA stands for American Psychological Association. And so it was a style that was developed for the social sciences. So you're going to find it used exclusively in sociology, psychology, and history because history is a social science. So if your major is in the social sciences, you will almost exclusively use APA formatting. MLA stands for Modern Languages Association. It's almost exclusively used in English and in foreign languages. So if you're studying the arts and humanities, probably you're going to be using MLA format. Riley, you had a question? Say.
Do you leave the words right together?
Yes. Now, if you look at the example in the latest edition of APA, it's not going to show it because it's giving you an example of a professional paper. In student APA papers, you may have a professor that requires the running head. And so that's why I've given you that example. And you leave running head just on page 1, but on page 2, it doesn't show up. That's why we clicked that button that said different heading on page 1. So that's why we clicked that so that we can have running head on page 1 in the header, but not on page 2, 3, 4, and subsequent pages. So that's how you make that happen. Okay, so the other consideration, we've looked at the thesis, the assignment, the claim on a controversial issue. We're using some sort of key term. Her key term here was cult. So if I'm thinking about this idea of using a key term, that's where the key term goes, right there. You come up with the thing that is or is not the key term, and then you come up with the criteria for it, and those are basically the main ideas of your body paragraphs. So we've looked at highlighting all of that. We've looked at Bree's paper as an example of a definition argument. The third thing that I would suggest to you is you've got to be able to find sources for it. And so the best place for sources is not a Google search, but a search of a subscription database. So you have access to a subscription database in the virtual library. Let me run through this really quickly. I've talked about it before first semester, but I want our new folks to know this as well. If you go to Campbellsville's website and you go to students and library, you're going to have access to the Montgomery Library, which gives you access to the virtual library. So you should have a login for TigerNet. That access code gives you access to the virtual library. So we want to go to, I suppose here, databases. There used to be a CU search. That's not what I want. Oh, it's just right up here. CU search. So this is going to get you into the virtual library. I always use advanced search just because it gives me a little bit more limiters to filter down my searches. It will require you to use your login, so make sure you've got your credentials in for TigerNet. Because it's a subscription database, that means not everyone can look at it. It's not public domain. And all the sources here are put there because a librarian has put them there. They're there because they're in an academic journal. What's the difference between a journal and a magazine? Someone remind me? Who reads a magazine? As opposed to who's the audience for a journal. Both are periodicals. Who reads People magazine versus who reads the Journal of Modern Medical Discoveries? Yeah, so journals are academic audience for a very targeted audience. They're generally peer reviewed, which means that if you're a doctor writing for the New England Journal of Medicine, then there have been other doctors in your profession who have reviewed your material before it's actually published. If you read Newsweek or People, that's just a general readership. So you will have classes in college where they ask you to do journal summaries, journal article summaries. To find journal articles, go to the virtual library. You're not going to go pick it up off of the rack at the grocery store aisle. Okay, so here, if you click online full text and then search for articles, let's say we want to look for cults. I've got 164,337 results for cults. That's way too much. I don't have time or the ability to look through that. I'm going to click advanced search again, and I'm going to make it plural. And I'm going to drop this down to title because of the word cults. If that's in the title, that probably indicates to me that the whole thing's going to be about it. And I'm going to add church to the search terms in any other field and religion. Okay. And I'm going to search and see if I've narrowed 164,000 hits down a little bit. 438, that's a little bit more manageable. So I've significantly dropped it by limiting my results. And the best ones are the ones that say they have a PDF option. If you can find those are probably the best. But if I click on an article here, I've got it. It gives me a description of it, and I can determine if this is something that I want to use or not use. Best part about this is there's a little quotation mark icon at the top. When you click that, it's going to give you a citation, and all I have to do is drop this down to APA 7th edition and copy it, or click up here, copy, and then open up my document. If I want to paste this, notice how I'm going to do it. I'm going to right click, and I've got two paste options. If I paste, it's going to give me the formatting of the original. If I paste without formatting, it's going to take my formatting. So it's going to make it Times New Roman 12 point double space. So I always want to click paste without formatting. No, that's not what I want. I'll do it this way. Copy, paste without formatting. Then all I have to do is make this centered. delete that weird extra space and indent. And italicize. Oh, sorry about that. That's what needs to be italicized. And there's one little problem there. Make that lowercase. But it basically does all my citation for me. And that's one of the benefits of using the virtual library. So, two things to consider. Try to find a topic that fits into a definitional claim with a key term that's something that you're interested in or something that you're already involved in. It can be as serious as you want or it can be as lighthearted as you want. But you've got to be able to find some sources to back it up. So before you commit to a topic, I would peruse the virtual library to make sure that there's actually some sources there that you can use for it. Or it could be a book that you have or something from the library. I know it's a radical idea to think about checking out a book from the library, but the library has books, remarkably enough, and you can check those out and you can read them and use them in your research paper or in your argument that you're doing for this class. Okay, now, in your course pack, right after the steps to writing a definitional argument, you have an exemplar. So find that in your course pack. It's called Eat Food, Food Defined. So what's the key term in that definitional argument? What is it? What goes in that blank there? Food. So the author here is defining what constitutes food. Well, that seems like an unusual thing to do, but food can be defined in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways you can classify it. So what I want you to do is read this exemplar, read this example, and notice that it has little descriptions about what the author is doing. Notice that there are subheadings in this one, like the one I showed you for the cult, multi-paragraph subheadings. So kind of think of it this way. If I'm talking about features A, B, and C, all right, so this would be somewhere in my introduction. It might be 1 to 3 paragraphs long. Then this becomes a heading. And I might have multiple paragraphs within each heading. So don't misinterpret this template as being a 5-paragraph model. Probably this is more like a shorter paragraphs with more development within subheadings kind of paper. So that might end up being 10 to 15 paragraphs. How many words do you have to write for essay 1? How many? 1,000. 1,000 words. So to get to 1,000 words, it's got to be more than 5 paragraphs. So if I use this model, I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, and then a conclusion, 13, 14 paragraphs to get to 1,000 words. No. In none of the papers that we write in this class will I require an abstract. An abstract in APA formatting is more for when you're actually doing clinical research. So let's say like in a science class, you were setting up some sort of experiment to test a hypothesis. In the abstract, you would explain your research methods and how you develop the actual experiment. So for our purposes, you don't need an abstract. The other thing that you can go ahead and be working on here, other than working on Vocabulary 11, other than reading the exemplar, I'm not giving you an assignment to do anything other than closely read it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about it, so make sure you've read it so you understand it. Is you can go ahead and set up your APA formatting for essay 1. So if you want to knock that out, go ahead and get it set up. Go ahead and start looking for a topic. And if you didn't turn in the summary of Winter Comes Again, make sure you upload that today in Google Classroom because I've not graded those yet, not looked at it.